chapter 14, verses 28, he says, in talking about considering following Jesus, he says, for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? We all do that. But he's saying, you need to understand that when you choose to follow me, there is a cost, and you have to be willing to embrace it. You have to be willing to accept that cost that comes along with following me. But part of accepting that cost is understanding what that cost is. That it will be countercultural. It will be counter, potentially, family traditions. That is what it means to pick up your cross and follow Jesus. And Jesus is illustrating this, is that we too also, we have to expect and we have to be intentional. When we want to execute God's vision for our lives, we need to sit down and let it mature. Why? Because what happens when we investigate that vision? It confirms that divine origin of that vision in our lives. Some of you have a burden for Pathfinders. Some of you have a burden for children's ministries. Some of you have a burden for praise team. Some of you have a burden for stewardship. Some of you have burdens for Christian education. Some of you have a burden for service, period. Some of you don't even know what your burden is. Regardless if you do or you don't, have you confirmed or have you taken the time to investigate to see if this burden that you have is actually the vision God has for you? Because the burden that he had, Nehemiah, was to rebuild, but he allowed it to mature. Joshua chapter 2, verse 24, this is an interesting story when comparing visions, right? He says, and they said to Joshua, truly the Lord has delivered all the land into our hands. For indeed, all the inhabitants of the country are faint-hearted because of us. Do you know when this was said to Joshua? Think back about 25 years prior to this. There were 12 young men that were sent into Canaan with the idea and the objective to scope out the land. They came back. Of the 12, 2 said, we got this. Well, I'm paraphrasing. He says, God has delivered the land into our hands. Oh no, we can't go in there. They're tall. They're giants. We are nothing but little grasshoppers. We can't do this. Only 2.